Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. Robin and I are thrilled to week after week showcase different women from different parts of the world, making an impact in the lives of other women and girls, so that we start thinking about how we bring these women together and how do we build momentum for the reality of women truly investing in each other and supporting each other professionally. How do we shift the traditional norms and taboos that have come with women in the workplace? How do we shift that scarcity mentality to an abundance mentality so that the momentum builds up for everybody to thrive? And you're going to absolutely love our guest today. And Robin, take it away.
Awesome. I am so excited to introduce Jessica Korthuis to you. And we actually met her through one of our other guests, Cindy Trice, who you may remember creates clothing for women who are suffering from cancer in all the stages. And so Cindy introduced us to Jessica, and the name of her company is Her Brand and Co. I love that name. You immediately know this is something for women just from the name of the company. So Jessica, please tell us about Her Brand and Co., what it's all about, how it got started, and just a little bit about this very unique brand, this very unique company, I should say.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. I'm honored to be here. Yeah, so Her Brand and Co. is really just a natural extension of over a decade's worth of working with women and entrepreneurship. My co-founder and I, Mari Milinkovic, run it together, and I'm our CEO. She is our COO, and it started because of my accidental entrepreneurship journey. I was raised by a single mom, and so I never had it on my radar to own a business. I didn't know anyone who owned a business. Back in the day, whenever I went to college, entrepreneurship classes didn't exist, and there really weren't many entrepreneurial communities or thriving ecosystems readily available, at least to me at that time. And so I ended up getting fired by my dream corporate job, and I had no backup plan. And that was on a Friday. And then I opened up my first business, which was a boutique branding and design agency, by Monday morning. And that was 12 years ago now. And I had the agency for about 5 or 6 years. And I had always worked with women brands, not exclusively, but of course, if a women brand came my way, I always jumped on it. And we worked with brands like Girls Who Code, TedxWomen. We did a bunch of work with different university institutions that had women co-created programs to help female students and their other stakeholders. And so over time, I started to notice that my ideal customer, which are early stage women entrepreneurs, they were asking me a lot of the same questions. And at that time, I had my first daughter, who is now 8 at the time that we record this episode. And so that was 8 years ago. And I realized that running an agency just didn't make any sense for me anymore. I was also consulting for a while, and I really wanted to dip my toes into online education, because since all these women were asking me very similar questions, I was like, there has to be a way to digitize this and productize this so that I'm not having to repeat the same information over and over again. And this was before online courses were really a thing. This is before everyone has an online course about something. And so I built my first online course in 2016. And that is the precipice of what is now Her Brand and Co. So by building online classes and then meeting other marketers in the space, marketing is the #1 reason that businesses fail outside of access to capital. So it's a tremendous pain point for small business owners. And I found that as we grew, we started to attract other marketers. And the biggest feedback was, I know how to market someone else's thing really well, but as soon as I try to market myself, I have like deer in the headlights and I can't function and I can't think. And so Mari and I thought to bring in other marketers into the fold and really lean into our mission and our values, that there's room at the top for all of us. And so Mari and I certainly have our expertise in the marketing space, but we cannot know everything, especially in the past 10 years. So much has changed with marketing. It's impossible to know everything now. So Her Brand & Co. is really about bringing together other marketers, other creatives, other subject matter expertise on top of Mari and I to build an educational platform that our mission is to democratize access to marketing education. So marketing, as I mentioned, is expensive and there's a lot at stake if you don't do it right. And many of the founders that we work with, they don't have tens of thousands of dollars to spend on experimenting. So it's really important that they know what they're doing and they know how to grow the business. So that's the long short of it, of kind of how I got here, how Her Brand & Co., came to be. And, our official elevator pitch is that we are the #1 educational marketing platform for early stage female entrepreneurs. And our goal is to democratize access to education. So that's what we do.
I am absolutely loving the democratization of marketing and marketing education, because the two places women fall short is the financial know-how and the marketing know-how. And so I am excited to hear what you're saying. As women think of starting their business, what advice do you have for them to make marketing a part of that initial thought process? Because finance and marketing are things they go to after the fact when they realize they can't do this right. But what advice do you have for them to do this upfront and make it part of planning itself, instead of partway through execution realize I need this too?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. So I think there's a lot of ways to think about that. And you are right. We see that in our community as well. The finance and the marketing is a really big barrier for our customers. So I think the first thing to say is, the same way that a financial advisor would tell you, you have to know the numbers of the business. We feel the same way about the marketing. As the founder, you have to know the marketing. It doesn't mean you have to do it. It means you have to know what to do. So I think just that general mind shift is really important to speak to, that as the founder, it is your job to understand growth. It is your job to understand, if I'm at point A and I want to get to point B, what are the levers and mechanisms I need to be able to do that? And again, that doesn't mean you have to do it all, but it means you have to know, being a leader of the business, you have to move from being a doer to a leader. And that happens at, different certain stages, of course. But the first step of that is understanding, what are the roadblocks and the obstacles that are going to keep me from getting to point A, and from point A to point B. So I think that mindset shift is really important, first and foremost. And then on a more tactical level, something that we teach in our programs, we have paid programming as well. I may have mentioned that our platform is free, but we have paid programming. So of course we have to monetize and grow the business. And one of the things that we teach in our paid programming is the lean startup methodology. It has been around for a very, very long time. It is not new. You're shaking your head, so I'm sure you understand it. And yes, you're Lean Six Sigma, right? Practitioner? That's what I thought. Okay, yeah, so you know all about it. So it's really about teaching them how to really lean into validated learning, how to really build an MVP, how to qualify customers and make sure you have product market fit before you even build anything. That's the big problem, is a lot of founders feel very comfortable in the creating and the doing. And then they get out there and they launch it and there's crickets, and you're like, why is no one buying this? And it's because the due diligence of figuring out who the customer is, what do they need, what are their pain points, is the thing that I'm building the actual thing that they need. Just because I think it's a good idea as a founder doesn't mean that they need it or that they'll pay for it at the amount that I think that they should pay. So I think those preliminary steps and using lean startup methodologies as a very tactical, scientific, objective way to reach those benchmarks in the business is a really good place to start. Founders, it hurts whenever you launch something and it doesn't work, or your goal is $500 in sales and you make $10. Yeah, that hurts. So I think Lean Startup is a really wonderful tool that helps us detach our personal value from when those strategies don't work, because the reality is that they're not going to always work. You're going to fail more than you succeed, especially in the first 3 to 4 years of the business. So if we already know that ahead of time, and if we know that our job as the founders is to understand the path forward and experiment and try and do it as fast as possible, as early as possible, you'll be able to get into market a lot earlier and you'll learn a lot better along the way.
My head is going in a million different directions, because I should probably get onto your website and start exploring it. In going back to a lot of what you're talking about is mindset and making these different shifts. And so how do you help people go from, or how do your different classes, your different programs, go from, as you say, a doer to a leader, to having the vision, to being humble enough to say, hey, I don't know this, I need to get some help on this. And then when you get the help to actually do it, how do you help women, especially women who are very heart-centered, they feel very strongly about what they have to offer? How do you help them make that shift from, hey, I think this is a great idea, to, I need some help on this?
Yeah, I love what you said about women being heart-centered. I would say 97% of the founders on our platform are women who run and operate lifestyle brands. And our audience is skewed slightly older. We don't have students or like young individuals on the platform. It's just not a market that we've tapped into for a lot of different strategic reasons. And I say all that to say that so many of the women on our platform, they are not trying to build the next billion-dollar unicorn. They're just trying to build something that they love, that gives them freedom of time, energy, resources, gives them the availability to spend time with their families and everyone else that they care about, and monetize their passions and what they're good at. So many of our founders have that heart-centered approach to their business. Which again, like we're saying, that's what makes it so hard whenever it doesn't work, because then you think that your personal value is attached to the business, and that's not always the case. So there's quite a few things mindset wise. There is and has been a false narrative circling online for a long time, on social media in particular, that you have to be keeping up with the latest algorithms, doing it all, being it all. You need to have a blog and a podcast and a this and a that and a webinar program and all your automations. So we, at a very early stage in our businesses, are consuming this information online, that we have to be doing all of the marketing things. So that's already a first big mindset shift to understand, is that you don't have to do all the marketing things. And I have a really good analogy that I'll share shortly to kind of encapsulate that. So that's number one. You don't have to do all the marketing things, and you shouldn't be doing all the marketing things. And then number two is really understanding what are the real needle movers of the business. So this is leveraging Lean Startup. What is the least amount of effort I can put in for the most amount in return? So let's say, does that mean that I should be creating content? I'm just using this as an example. Does this mean I should be creating content on TikTok for the next 6 months and hope that something goes viral, or build my audience on TikTok, which is a great strategy, certainly, but it takes a lot of time. Is that really going to give you the most bang for your buck in the very early stages? Or maybe your time would be better suited doing direct cold outreach, or direct partnership outreach, or going to events, or engaging in communities where the time it's going to take you to build that trust and nurture that sale is going to be a lot shorter. So that is something to really think about in the early stages of how to move from a doer to a leader, is understanding what is the minimum thing I can do for the most amount of output. And most businesses, they need sales, right? Like we can't exist without leads or without sales. So in the early stages, you should be cultivating leads, 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 leads. Everything you are doing should be focused on customer acquisition in some way, shape, or form. Does that help provide some clarity there? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to give the visual example. So the way I love to explain this is a solar system analogy. So think of your branding and marketing as a system, like a solar system, and think of the sun as the brand. So the sun is your mission, your vision, your values. It's all the juicy stuff, right? It's all the things that make you unique. It's your value proposition. It's these things that other people can't really replicate. It's what makes you special. That is the sun. So the bigger and brighter the sun, the stronger the solar system. And you can think of the planets as the marketing channels. So each planet is a different channel. Social media is a planet, webinars is a planet, podcast is a planet, email, and so forth, on and on and on and on. So what typically happens is most small business owners, they do one of two things. They only have one planet, and they put all their marketing sort of practices into that one planet, which is dangerous to the solar system, because if that doesn't work, the system can't function. Or they do the opposite, which is that they spin up too many planets at the same time and they can't manage all the planets, and the system comes crashing down to the floor. So that's really how, as a business, we need to figure out what are my specific planets for my specific solar system. And the truth of the matter is that there's no magic answer. There's no like perfect planet for every business. And that's why this is so hard. You could have two product businesses right next to each other that could have completely different solar systems because of what they're selling and who they're selling it to. So what we typically like to say is no more than 3 planets at a time. And you think about that, like if you have social media as a planet, like that could just be one. If you have like Instagram, for example, and then you might have email marketing, and then you might have like retail or wholesale, for example, if you have a product-based business, that's a lot to do. That's a lot going on already, those 3 different planets. So that is the first place I tell people to start, is what are your 3 most critical, mission critical planets that are going to they're going to yield the highest result for the least amount of effort.
I love the visual picture you're painting because it's easy to remember. And it's something we can all relate to. It is in a very digestible form. What's coming up for me is women, by definition of how our life is and how life unfolds. We are never just an entrepreneur. We have other responsibilities. That takes up all our time. Being a mother, being a homemaker, even when we have a career, we have to do all of that, being a caregiver for a loved one. How do you see women juggling this? Because being an entrepreneur takes up so much. And then women sometimes feel like they're failing in other aspects. And how do women come to a place where they decide what to drop or what they can get outside help with and what they have to do?
That is the ultimate question, right? So I have 2 girls. I've had multiple different, issues happen over the years while running businesses. So I know all too well what this is like, caring for an aging parent, all the things as you're mentioning. So I think there's a few things here. The false dichotomy I had mentioned before about online, about you have to do all the things. Something else that circulates a lot on social media is if you don't have a 6-figure business by 15 months, right, your business is not valuable. You have to grow fast. You have to grow quickly, right? You have to raise funds. It's looks sexy to get an investor. There's this glorified picture of what entrepreneurship looks like. And the reality is that most of us are not in that place. The reality is that most of us might be taking out a small loan to open up a store, or we might be spending our savings from our side gig and starting to build our MVP. So I think the real answer is whatever pace that you decide to build your business is the pace that you decide to build it. And one of the reasons that most people get into entrepreneurship is ownership and autonomy over their time. And that's the most ironic thing about entrepreneurship, is it ends up running you versus you running it. So I think boundary setting, I feel like the term is so overused, but I mean, it really is about boundary setting. And a really good example is this. Mari and I, my co-founder, she does not have kids. Her and her husband have chosen not to have a family, and they love to travel. They were spending 2 years abroad. And I, of course, have two children. And so my husband's also from the Netherlands. So for us, we really lean into European summers. I'm like, bye, see you in 8 weeks. See you every 6 to 8 weeks. Don't call me until September, type of thing. So what Mari and I have done since the beginning of our partnership is we purposely will not run programming in the summer. And that is a choice that we make. That means that we take a revenue hit, and we do that on purpose because we value time off. I value that space to go to Europe and have my kids see their grandmother in the Netherlands and spend time overseas and understand their Dutch heritage. Mari appreciates having just time and space to travel with her husband. That doesn't mean we're not working, but we're not running programs or doing anything that's really a heavy lift. And so what does that mean, right? Something has to give, as you said. So that means fall and spring for us have to really be busy, and they really have to spin and hum in order for us to hit our sales goals. So fall and spring are critical in order for us to grow. So I think that's something that as an individual, you have to decide what are the non-negotiables in your life, personal or professional. And you have to build your business around your life, not the other way around. And that's where the slippery slope lies, is when you start to alter your entire existence around your business, then we start to resent our business. And that's not really a good place to be.
I'm loving what you're saying, because to me, it sounds like a very practical and doable approach. And that getting away from this myth that you have to build fast, you have to build big, and you have to do everything all at once. I'm loving this. Create your business around your life, and then understand it and manage it in an intelligent way, but also a way that may defy some social expectations. And in fact, it reminds me of a book I read called Company of One. It's about companies that on purpose chose to stay small to accommodate whatever their lifestyle choices were, or things like that. A really fascinating concept, and I think a very freeing concept. You know, what we say every single time we have a guest on is the time just really flies by. So before we get into our ending, wrapping things up, how can people get a hold of you? And what are one or two golden nuggets that you would like to share with the audience who listens to this after it's released and into the future?
Yeah, one or two golden nuggets. Oh, it's a lot of pressure. So I would say, kind of piggybacking off of our discussion already, is don't believe the lie that there's one way to build your life and run a business. It is your life and your business, and you get to decide how you run it. So that is that. I would love to just like nail that in the sand. The other thing I would like to say is, from a marketing perspective, a lot of companies in the early stage, they try to go too wide, too fast. They try to be everything to everyone for the fear of leaving out customers. And we know that the opposite is actually true for success. So what that means is you really want to pick a customer, pick someone that you love, that you really enjoy showing up for, working with, etc., and know that customer like your best friend. Know everything about them. Know their fears, their challenges, not just where they live and their demographics and sort of high level information about them. We really want to know their psychographics. We want to know what makes them tick. We want to know really what their fears are. And the more you can speak to your customer from that place, the more valuable your brand becomes. And the more specific you can be with your customer, the more valuable your brand becomes. So those would be the two golden nuggets I'd like to leave the audience with. And then how to get in touch with us, just simply Google us. We're at herbrandandco.com. As I mentioned before, our platform is totally free. And we really walk the walk that we are democratizing access. So our platform is free. It has tons of classes on there, workshops, resources. We have a mentor directory that we have personally vetted. So if you're like, I really need a copywriter and I do not have time, energy, or the skill set to go out and interview a gazillion of them. We already have them on the mentor directory resource available to our founders on our platform. And then for me personally, people can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Jessica Korthuis.
Thank you so much, Jessica. This has been an amazing conversation and so much information for women who are either entrepreneurs or thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. I cannot wait for women to hear this episode, connect with you, take advantage of the democratization that you're offering. And that itself is the essence of what we are doing here, Women Investing in Women. And thank you so much to you and your co-founder for what you're doing, because it's these mindful, intentional actions that move the needle in the world for real, right? And you're creating economic viability for women and families out there. So thank you for all you do and the heart with which you do. And to our audience, you heard Jessica talk about her nuggets of wisdom and the solar system and the planets and your brand as the sun. We highly encourage you to go look her up, look up their website, and take advantage of the tools at your disposal. None of us know everything, but when we inform ourselves and we become aware, we know who to reach out to and what help to ask. And really, that's all that matters. We can't do everything. Lean in, ask for help, invest in each other, because only together we are going to go farther and we're going to stay viable longer.